everyone, this is Charles Joe with the Ledgerback Digital Commons Research Cooperative, and so I'm just going to be providing just a quick overview in this video, going over Lecture 2, What's a Data Cooperative, for the Introduction to Data Cooperatives course. You can find the course on the Ledgerback Academy website at learn.ledgerback.xyz. And yeah, you can find the course there. In this video specifically for the second lecture. Yeah, in this lecture we're just going to go over what is a data cooperative. And if you do need to contact Ledgerback, if you need some support regarding the course, or you have any questions, you can also send an email to ledgerback@gmail.com. You can send a direct message on Twitter to the @Ledgerback account, or you can go to Ledgerback forum under the Introduction to Data Cooperatives thread and just submit a post there. Just let us know what your question is, or if you have any other feedback. Okay, so here's the outline for this lecture. So just going to be talking about 3 readings. They're actually pretty short, so it should be a pretty quick read. Just going over different definitions of data cooperatives and just some of the ways to relate to platform cooperatives. Going over these 3 readings: exploring legal mechanisms for data stewardship. What does data mean? What does it mean? Shifting power through data governance, and platform and data cooperatives amidst European pandemic citizenship. Yeah, the readings for this section is pretty short, so this reading wise shouldn't necessarily take too long. Okay, so the first reading is exploring legal mechanisms for data stewardship. So for this one, I just specifically focused on just talking about data cooperatives, not necessarily the problems and the benefits that go along with the model. That will be in a future lecture. This slide, though, will just go over the definition for data cooperatives, which I thought was pretty important. So I didn't necessarily include a division for cooperatives because falls with that. It's a little bit obvious, so I just focused specifically on the data cooperatives here. So first we have for definition. The paper defines data cooperatives, cooperative organizations, whatever their legal form, that have as their main purpose the stewardship of data for the benefit of their members, who are seen as individuals or data subjects. I know it's not necessarily mentioned in the definition, but they do mention in the paper that there could also be altruistic benefits or social benefits which are sought in addition to benefits directly for members. Really interesting definition there. Pretty straightforward. Pretty similar to the other definitions you'll see for a data cooperative. And moving on to the second point, data stewardship is likely a secondary function for most tech-enabled cooperatives. As mentioned in the reading, there are going to be some cooperatives which are just specifically for data, but the majority of data stewardship is probably just going to be secondary, especially for most tech-enabled cooperatives, because if they're tech-enabled, they probably are dealing with data in some form or another. It could be member data, it could be consumer data, or even some third-party data. That's probably not their primary purpose. So an example could just be, let's say, social co-op. Social co-op. It's a cooperative which runs a Mastodon instance, which is pretty cool. So for them, the members, they are dealing with member data, which some of it could be considered personal data. But their primary goal isn't to steward member data from social networks. Their primary goal is to run an instance, a Mastodon instance. So, as you can see, their primary purpose is to run Mastodon instance, while their secondary purpose is to manage the data from members which are on their Mastodon instance. So you will see a lot of technical coders having to deal with data in one way or another, but but for most, it wouldn't be their primary thing. And then moving on to the third point, like what issues do data cooperatives address? Mainly, try to give members more control over data they generate, which in turn can be used to address existing problems, including social problems, or open up new opportunities. So primarily, the goal is not necessarily to monetize member data, but to provide really some value from that data. So it's more of the seeking out insights from data rather than necessarily trying to monetize the data. As you can see there in the quotes, address existing problems, including social problems. So it could be something that's particular to the members, or a particular social issue the members want to address, or to open new opportunities. So it doesn't necessarily have to be purely economic. It could be economic and non-economic goals for a data cooperative. I know I said that I didn't mention cards, but as mentioned in the reading, just what the cooperative form is, and so you can refer to this reading for that. All right, moving on to the next slide. Okay, platform data cooperatives missed. Oh, sorry. Okay, this slide. All right, what does it mean? Shifting power to data governance, data cooperative definition. Yeah, this is pretty short section here, just a brief overview of data cooperatives. So a data cooperative is a legal construct to facilitate the collaborative pooling of data by individuals or organizations for the economic, social, or cultural benefit of the group. As you can see from the definition, it goes beyond just purely economic. And once again, it's a legal construct, so there does have to be a legal form that goes along with the data cooperatives. More likely than not, it's a legal form which allows you to operate as a cooperative. So it could be a statute which is specifically for cooperatives, or it could be another type of business organization, and then depending on what form you take. So, for example, here in the U.S., you could take a limited liability corporation, LLC. You could turn it into a cooperative just by implementing the cooperative principles. So, you could really take any legal form you want, as long as it allows you to implement the cooperative principles. All right, second point, data cooperatives are governed by legal fiduciary obligations agreed to by all in order to benefit members individually and empower members collectively. That's a really important point. So that's, the goal really is to empower the individual. It's to empower the individual, but also to do it collectively. But primarily, we want to provide benefits to members individually. This kind of goes back to my point about giving members really insights from their data. That's kind of the main goal, stuff, rather than just purely economic. Because even if you do give members economic benefits, you might not necessarily be empowering them. And that's something that cooperative can do collectively, is that it can empower people from a collective standpoint, so that they could have a better understanding of how their data is used, shared with third parties, or even for potentially improving their bargaining power at a collective level. And then moving on to the third point, data cooperatives can address power inequities posed by big data through democratizing governance of data at scale. So going back to what issue that data cooperative addresses, it's generally focused a lot more on power inequities between, here they mentioned big data, but it's kind of like between big tech and the individual data suppliers. So that's it for this slide. Okay, moving to the last slide, platform data cooperatives and myths, European pandemic citizenship. So this paper kind of just gives us a really nice taxonomy of how to how to relate data cooperatives to platform cooperatives. So in the paper, pretty much the author identifies data cooperatives as a subtype of platform cooperatives. Generally, you'll see this in the literature as well. Very interrelated terms. So you generally do see them. You don't see data cooperatives as a type of platform cooperatives. And so really the big difference is that platform cooperatives focus really on the whole business model, while data cooperatives generally just focus on mutualizing data stores, once again focusing on the data stewardship aspects, whether the goal is to provide economic benefit or not. That would be generally something you would expect more with a platform cooperative, where it's trying to encompass the whole business model, with a data cooperative will focus more on just how do we mutualize data storage. And then here we have the 4 types of platform cooperatives. This other goes with worker, producer, data, multi-stakeholder, which I think is actually a pretty good taxonomy. You'll see different ones that come about as well. I think they're all actually pretty useful, since there's no clear types, but it's something to look at. This kind of does help just relate data cooperatives to other tech-enabled cooperatives. And then here we have the data cooperative definition. Again, you have co-op structures to enable creation of open data and personal data stores for mutual benefit. And going to the heart of the issue is really to balance the asymmetric relationship between data subjects, and data users. And generally, when you think of data users, you can also kind of think that directly as just somewhat corporate monopolization of tech users' data. But that's really what you could say the main issue addressed. And going back to the previous slide, addressing those power inequities between data users and data subjects. Of course, you can also call them data suppliers. Not necessarily, they're almost synonymous, but not necessarily. But really trying to provide balance to that. And alternatively, you can also just create a data commons, or here, voluntary pull, data together to create a common pool for mutual benefits. And so you could have, this pool act as a common resource for collective ownership, which can be collectively managed. And so that's really the other big thing too, is that you do get, collective ownership, but really mostly the collective governance in deciding how things are, how data gets collected, processed, shared, and you can do that in a collective manner. Then we have the platform cooperative definition, which is just a corporately owned, democratically governed business that establishes a computing platform and uses a website, mobile app, or protocol to facilitate the sale of goods and services. And generally, I can say alternative venture capital funded platforms, insofar as they are owned and governed by those who depend on them most. Workers, users, and other relevant stakeholders. As you can see, a data cooperative can pretty much fall under that definition of platform cooperative. And so, that's pretty much it for this slide and for, this last slide. So that's pretty much it for this one. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, once again, please send your feedback either by email to ledgerback@gmail.com. You can also send a DM on Twitter to @ledgerback, or you can post your question on the Ledgerback forum for the Introduction to Data Cooperatives thread. Once again, I'm Charles Jude. I'm the instructor. I'm making the videos for the slides. Hopefully, you guys find this to be pretty helpful. And that's pretty much it from me. Hopefully, you found this video interesting and you're willing to go look at the next lecture.